According to Porsche, the 911 GTS is for the kind of driver who quite fancies a GT3, but who isn't quite ready to put up with the compromises it demands. So it's a GT3 Lite, in other words, which is why it has more power and performance than a Carrera S, but less mania to its personality than the full-blown GT3. In this form, with four-wheel drive and PDK transmission, the GTS is far from cheap, however. It costs £98,679, which is within a whisker of the GT3's price. So is the GTS good enough to justify that price? And is it anything like as good as the real thing on the road? Okay, so the key question on the road when driving the GTS is it half of a GT3? Does it fill that gap between the Carrera S and the GT3 that Porsche says it fills? Yes and no. As you can probably tell, it sounds fantastic. It really does. It sounds not a lot less than a GT3. This particular one is the Carrera 4 though, so you get more weight. It's also got the PDK gearbox, which you get as standard in a GT3, but that adds lots and lots of quids to the cost. This one has got every single option you could possibly throw at it on it, and it costs about 135,000 quid for a regular 911 with, albeit, a few nice badges and a bit of black bits around its headlights. And at that money, it needs to be more than just great to drive. It needs to blow your hair off, and it's not quite doing that, the GTS. The performance is pretty sensational. I mean, let's talk about the 0 to 60 time rather than the 0 to 100 clicks time, because we do work for a UK magazine. The 0 to 60 mile an hour time on this car is quoted at 3.8 seconds, and the top speed is, I can't work it out, it's either 189 or 190 miles an hour. So we're talking about thundering, proper, mad performance. But somehow, on the road, possibly because this one's four-wheel drive and it's just that little bit heavier, it's not really setting me alight. It's very fast, it's very rapid, but it's not nuts quick. It's doesn't feel anywhere near as fast as the GT3, sorry. This one's got the carbon ceramic brakes, so you would expect it to stop beautifully, and it does. There is no four-wheel steering on the GTS. Again, that's another thing that GT3 has got, but which the GTS doesn't. There's nothing wrong with the steering. In fact, the steering in many ways is very nice on the GTS, but again, it doesn't steer as crisply, and it doesn't change gear direction as sharply or as incisively as the GT3, and yet it costs similar sorts of money. I love the way the GTS looks. I really do like it's 10 millimeters lower, the little touches that you get around the headlights front and rear. The Turbo S wheels do look absolutely naughty as well. It does look considerably a cut above than a regular Carrera S. I'm sounding like I'm not really that blown away by the GTS. Well, I am. It's a lovely, lovely car. And if the GT3 didn't exist, I'd be sitting here in raptures about how brilliant the steering is, how massive the performance is, how strong the brakes are, the lot. Everything this car does is very, very good indeed. But when you have got the GT3 to compete against in your own house for really not that much less money, and the GT3 is really not a lot less civilised than the GTS, it does put a question mark beside it. I think they've sort of plugged a hole in the range that doesn't actually exist. Right, window down, second gear engaged, tunnel, this is how good it sounds. never tire of that noise. It's just bloody marvellous. As ever with the PDK, it works just... It's just awesome, it really is. It almost seems to change gear before you physically ask it to change gear. It just seems to know and be in the right mode and in the right gear all the time, no matter what you want to do with it. No, maybe I'm wrong. It is special. It's fantastic, but just the GT3 is just that much more. It does feel sharper and faster and sounds naughtier than a Carrera S. No question, it does. Okay, maybe there is a very small gap in Porsche's 911 range and maybe the GTS fills it. But the thing I'm slightly disappointed by is that it doesn't take the game on anywhere near as far above the Carrera S as the Boxster and the Cayman GTS do to a regular Boxster S. So I guess that's my problem. That's pretty much my only problem with